Well, good evening to the residents of the East Contra Costa Fire Protection District. My name is Brian Helmick. I'm the fire chief, and I'm going to pause for a quick second to let people populate here tonight. If you're receiving this and you want either your neighbors, business owners, or residents of the East Contra Costa Fire District to watch this, I do ask that you share. I myself, I'm going on to the East Contra Costa Fire Protection District site. I'm going to be sharing this myself, as I do believe that there are going to be some good updates for all of you that are very curious to the current events with the East Contra Costa Fire Protection District, and more importantly, what's going on and where it is that we're going. So I do see people are populating. I am sharing the post myself on my own page. And again, I ask for all of you to do that, and I'll wait for a moment to make sure that people are populating as they are. The numbers are growing. That's exactly what we want to see. So welcome to all those that are joining here tonight. This will be recorded. So those that are not able to see this, it will be on the district's Facebook page and also on our YouTube page. So you can forward it on to those that may not be here tonight. All right, we got a good amount of people, and we're going to get started right now. So again, good evening and welcome to the East Contra Costa Fire Protection District Facebook Live event, which is also being broadcasted on YouTube and Periscope. This event is very much intended for the residents and the businesses and those that travel through the East Contra Costa Fire Protection District. That's the cities of Brentwood, the city of Oakley, and the townships of Knightson, Bethel Island, Discovery Bay, Byron, Marsh Creek, and Morgan Territory. This is all about you, and this is all for you. The last time we provided one of these updates was in mid-June, and the district was in the midst of seeking and exploring to do potential annexation. Some call it consolidation with the Contra Costa County Fire Protection District. And tonight I'll be able to update you on all of those processes and bring you up to speed on where we are. But the overall objective again here today is to make sure that you have the most updated and relevant information, all things related to the fire district. And I think what's equally most important is that you also have the opportunity to ask questions as we go throughout the night, and I'll work to address them at the very end. With that being said, as you can see, people are already pumping comments into the comment box. I can see them on my phone, but I can't see them on my screen. But I do ask for people to start populating questions now. Hopefully through my presentation, I'll be doing about 10 to 15-minute presentation on the district. We'll continue to gather the questions that come in, and I'll do the very best I can over this time that we have together tonight to address any questions that you have. And again, we're going to be recording this, and this isn't going to end the conversations. I'll be coming back again in January, and I'll be coming back again in March of 22 to give 2 more updates as we move forward. So I appreciate it. We got a good amount of participation going on here already. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start working through the presentation. Again, I'm going to do a state of the district. I'm going to run through a presentation. One of the most challenging things for me in these environments is that I know that I'll have people that are very much experienced within the fire district. They know our background, they know our history, they know what we're working on. But there are many people, maybe East Contra Costa Fire is new. And so it's going to be brief and it's going to be somewhat quick, is I am going to give a background on the district. If you can get the next slide, please. I'm going to go over and give a little bit about who the district is. I'm going to talk about our historic challenges. I'm going to talk about the past that we've been working on to be able to correct our historic challenges. And I'll talk about where we are now and what the next steps are to come. And I want to provide you and anyone that's here with the access to additional information, if anyone has any. And again, I want to answer any questions about things I discuss and even things I don't, so you know what's going on with the fire district. So I'm going to work through this for about the next 10 to 15 minutes. Then we'll collect as many questions that we have. Hopefully I address many of the questions that you have throughout my presentation, but if not, we'll address them at the end. Next slide, please. So a little bit about who East Contra Costa Fire is. The East Contra Costa Fire Protection District, we became the East Contra Costa Fire Protection District in 2002, but prior to that, in the mid to late 20s, we were a volunteer fire agency all the way up until about 2002. That small picture you see on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, which I'll show you on the next slide blown up, is that there were many different agencies, small volunteer agencies, some what they call combination agencies, which means they had some career professionals to volunteers in those organizations. But over time, we consolidated with the Oakley-Knightson, the Bethel Island, and the East Avila Fire District in 2002 to who we are today as the East Contra Costa Fire Protection District. One thing that's really important to note, it wasn't until 2019 that the East Contra Costa Fire Protection District was governed by its own board, which means that we had people that were either appointed and or did not have the legitimate authority to implement many of the mechanisms that we need to be sustainably, financially sustainable with the organization. And we didn't really start making some really big changes until about 2019. So from 2002 to date, we are the East Contra Costa Fire Protection District. We're a career organization. Professional paid firefighters are on 24/7, 365. But the challenges that we've been having is we don't have enough revenue. We have about half of the revenue we need to provide adequate fire protection today. As you can see, that we have 3 fire stations today. We should have 6, and we know with growth, as we watch the city of Oakley and the city of Brentwood and the unincorporated areas of Contra Costa County, as they continue to grow over the next 20 years, we know we're going to need an additional 3 fire stations for a total of 9. We have 3 stations today. We should have 6, and we know that we're going to need 9. Not putting the appropriate mechanisms and addressing growth effectively, it is the root cause of the problems that we have within the district. As I stated, we used to be a volunteer organization. In 2002, we became a professional career 24/7, 365 organization. We've always been funded as a rural volunteer fire department. In the late 70s, there was a proposition called Proposition 13 that locked in the rates on people's homes that they pay for different services within their area. And we are funded at half of the rate of what we need. And it isn't so much about Proposition 13 that was put in place back in the day. It's that we, as the fire district and our partner agencies, the city of Brentwood, the city of Oakley, and the county, we did not place the appropriate amount of assessments on new development over decades, which created the existing deficits that we have here today. We're a very special district. 249 square miles is our footprint. We have about 140,000 residents, and it swells to about 165,000 people when people come to visit our beautiful jurisdiction. And so between 140 to 165,000 people in our jurisdiction, we're running our district out of 3 firehouses a day. We should have no less than 6. And we're running about 7,700 calls per year, which it takes approximately about 9,500 pieces of equipment to be able to mitigate those 7,700 calls. Simple point is we have half the resources we need. Funding has been the issue. And it's because historically we did not address growth, but the appropriate, what we call mitigation measures or assessments on development for decades and created a deficit today. Next slide, please. So this is the picture of our history, but a little bit of our governance. As I stated, the 3 bottom squares that you can see is the East Contra Costa Fire Protection District today, but it wasn't until the very, very bottom one where we got an elected board. And many of the issues that are just previously discussed about not having adequate funding, we started to really be able to address and start to fix back in 2019. And tonight, I believe I have a lot of updates to show you what we've done to become a lot healthier of an organization, to be able to address the issues that brought us to where we are. And more importantly, I think we have a sustainable path forward to be able to get adequate fire protection within our jurisdiction. Next slide, please. This slide shows you clearly where we are today. On the left-hand side of the screen, which says current staffing, you can see we have 1 station in Oakley, 1 in Brentwood, and 1 in Discovery Bay. A very large footprint. On the bottom left-hand corner, it's a Cal Fire Station that we do what's called an Amador contract. We hire them in the off seasons of fire season to staff that station so it doesn't go dark throughout the winter. We utilize that resource throughout the year, but during the summer months, it's a state resource. In the winter months, we use it to be able to provide protection out in the Marsh Creek Morgan Territory region. With that said, we as East Contra Costa Fire have 1 station in Oakley, Brentwood, and Discovery Bay. On the right-hand side of your screen, you can see the green circles are what we're considering existing service level deficits. Those are the fire stations that you, the residents and the businesses of our jurisdiction, we should have today. If we had the adequate amount of funding, if the mechanisms have been in place historically, the stations would have been built and they would have been staffed. But that is our existing service level deficit. And the blue circles are the ones that I discussed that we will need over the next 20 years when growth continues to come into the jurisdiction. And it's imperative we build the mechanisms to make sure we can not only build the stations, but sustainably staff them or have recurring revenue coming in every year to be able to staff them in the years to come. Next slide, please. So to really boil it down, as I've said a couple times, and it's worth repeating, we have really two clear challenges as a fire district. One is providing adequate fire protection to our existing population. Those are the people that are here today. And as I stated, we have 3 stations. We have an existing 3-station deficit, which is not adequate. We need double that. We about double the response times that we should have. Our members, our firefighters, do a fantastic job providing not only fire, rescue, and EMS services, but time and distance is the problem. It is very hard to get a resource there fast, and we don't have what's called wait, the resources that come behind to provide additional support. And so providing adequate fire protection to our existing population is very difficult. The second problem we have that's running concurrent, and that if we don't address it, it's going to compound our problem, is making sure that we prepare for growth effectively. We cannot address growth as we did historically. Otherwise, we're going to be put into a deeper hole, and we will compound the problem that we have. And we have a tremendous amount of urgency to be able to make sure that we put the appropriate measures on all future growth. So as developments come in and as our community continues to grow, we can not only build stations, but also have the revenue to be able to pay the firefighters what we call sustainably, repeatedly over time, and we won't have any revenue issues. So it's providing not only adequate fire protection to those that are here now, but also preparing to be able to do it into the future. Next slide, please. So a path. So the problem statement really is that we don't have enough revenue and we have a growth challenge. They're running concurrently with each other, and if we don't address them, they do make our situations worse. As your fire district, starting in about 2017, we made a lot of pretty substantial changes. We defined those 2 service challenges, existing deficits and growth challenges, and we went right to work. How can we address those 2 issues? What is the pathway to be successful? Since 2017 to date, what we've done is we started to live within our means. We boiled ourselves down to know that we can run 3 stations sustainably, which means we have the revenue each year to pay for those services. We knew that we had the right amount of revenue to be able to not only take care of our capital and equipment replacements, we can start to become a little more competitive in regards to paying our firefighters, because if we didn't, we would start to have, and we started to see, retention issues, people leaving to go forward for their agencies, people resigning and leaving, just because we were not competitive within the market. We had to be able to take care of our equipment, take care of our stations, replace our stations and our equipment, and pay our folks competitively to be sustainable to run the 3 stations we have. We started doing that and living within our means back in 2017. We also prepared for our infrastructure to increase. Although we only have 3 stations today, we know we needed 6. And we started building new stations. We have one out in Bethel Island, which is called Station 55. That is on Cypress Road and Bethel Island Road. It is constructed. It is not staffed. I'll be talking about that in a moment when we plan on staffing it. And but we started to build stations, and we are working right now to build a 2nd station, which is going to be at the Empire Grant or Empire Amber Lane, right behind Pioneer School. We're right now in the design phase of designing a 2nd station to be built. That's going to be Station 51. And we are also working on plans, the downtown station by Station 50, which is 54, downtown Brentwood, right by the Bank of America that has been shuttered. We're working on constructing a 2-story fire station there. We're hoping to be able to do that within 5 years, and I'll explain how that's going to be done here in a moment. As we've been working on all those initiatives, we have also been building mechanisms. We've been looking, we prepared 2 tax initiatives that if we're needed to either fund a 1, 2, and or 3 stations if needed. But we're also exploring all alternatives in lieu of a tax. It is not the fire board's desire, it is not the staff's desire, it's not my desire to have a tax to increase service levels, unless it's the worst case situation, and that's what we have to do. So we've been exploring all our options to be able to do that. But we do have assessments and staging if needed, but we've been looking at the federal, the state, and the local level and trying to see everything that we can do to ensure that we can find any viable path to increase service levels. And I think we're well on our way. I'll be sharing with you some updates here in a moment just on that. But on the growth side, we've done a lot of really good things, and I'm happy to report as we have stopped the bleeding. As the fire district, we have now 2 mechanisms that are put in place. I thank the city of Oakley, I thank the city of Brentwood, the Contra Costa County Board of Supervisors for partnering with the district. They are land use agencies, we provide services to their areas, but we are independent of them. And they've been working with us, and they've done a great job to be able to get what we have calls impact fees in place. Impact fees are one-time fees when permits are pulled by the developers. that they pay that are very restricted funds, and they can only be used to buy apparatus and to build future fire stations to mitigate or address future growth. And so we've worked with Oakley, Brentwood, and the county, and just recently, over the past year, we've got new mechanisms in place that over the next 20 years, we will have enough revenue to build 3 additional stations and get the appropriate amount of equipment. Furthermore, we as the fire district created what is called the CFD, a community facilities district. And it is an assessment that those developers, when they build their property, it will be applied to each of those properties that they're building, and they will pay the district on an annual basis the fees that are assigned until they sell it. And once they sell it, it becomes the responsibility of the property owners. And those future assessments will come in annually, and they'll be paid by the homeowners. And that revenue that comes in is what pays for the firefighters. And that will ensure that stations 7, 8, and 9, the growth stations, not only will they be built, but they will also be funded going into the future. The fire district has created both of those mechanisms, and we've stopped the bleeding what's brought us here. Respectfully, if we had those mechanisms in place in the early 2000s, we would not have the service level deficits that we do today. Those were missed opportunities. They were not put in place, but they are put in place now. But we still very much have a 3-station service level deficit that we need to address. And I'll be providing you updates on how we're going to be addressing that here in a moment. Next slide, please. Now, the next 2 slides, I do apologize for the small font, but I'm not going to be going through each one of these individually, but I recommend that you can read through what's on these slides. And this shows you, this slide and the next one will show you what has been done. What has your fire district done from 2017 to date to try to make sure that we have done everything we can to run a leaner, more efficient, and transparent organization to ensure that we can not only be sustainable at 3 stations, but also do everything we can to try to fund station 4, 5, and 6, our existing service level deficits. Many of these initiatives you have on the screen here today, I can tell you, they're a story amongst themselves. The fingerprints of the people that have achieved these things is long and far. It's not only our fire board, definitely, but the members within the organization, the labor groups that have participated, the support from our partner agencies of the cities and the counties. We broke down every silo and every wall we had in an attempt to become, like I said, not only a transparent, but a well-running organization, a model organization, one of which that we can be proud of, and we wanted to demonstrate. It was just lack of revenue. It wasn't lack of means, it wasn't lack of will, it wasn't lack of ability, but it was about revenue. And from 2017 to date, all the efficiencies and making sure that what we reinforced and made sure that there were policies set up if we had to correct them, if there's any other revenue to get kicked in over every single rock, from adjusting the way we did our pension obligations, the way that we did our MOU and negotiations, not only for pay, but also benefits, the way that we finance, the way that we addressed our buildings, the way that anything to do with any revenue was retooled and redone to the point. I'll be discussing here about annexation and consolidation, but I want you to know that your fire district, at the direction of your elected fire board, that we, independently of annexation or consolidation, we are able to open a 4th station in 2022, around April and May of 2022. We're going to be able to fund a station independent of any other actions just because of the way we retooled the fire district. And so the station out in 55, that is going to be in Bethel Island, that station is going to be open. And we are currently also working on a plan to open up the other 2 stations, and I'll explain here in a moment. But this list, I want to just say that this list of undoing and correcting decades of wrongs, getting these processes and getting these mechanisms in place, they have changed the face of your fire district. They have very much made your fire district one of which that is trustworthy, is transparent, that we are efficient, and we have demonstrated that we are one of which I can be partnered with, and that we have a plan, and that revenue is our only issue, and we addressed our growth problem. And I'm just, again, happy to report that within our own initiatives that we don't need 2 stations, 3 stations anymore. We only need 2. And so that's huge. But how are we going to address those 2? Next slide, please. Here's another laundry list of things that we have gone through. Anyone that's been monitoring our district, they can see that we've been doing many of these things. But on the very bottom point of this, I think the highest point is that we wanted to complete a feasibility study for potential consolidation with the Contra Costa County Fire Protection District. As I stated previously, is that we were going to do everything. We've done everything that we can to make the district run as efficient as we can and correct different policies that negatively impacted us and other systems that were poor. And by doing so, we have gotten ourselves to be a sustainable, not 3-station organization today, but in April of 2022, we will be a 4-station organization. But one of the other things that we wanted to look at, and starting about August of 2019, working into 20, we really wanted to start looking at the feasibility of annexation with the Contra Costa County Fire Protection District. Next slide, please. And why is this important? Well, consolidation, that word really shouldn't be consolidation, it should be annexation. But again, consolidation rings well with our target audience. But what we're doing is working on the annexation or consolidation feasibility of Contra Costa County Fire. Now, I want to make it very clear, this has been a non-discussion starter for decades. Your fire district, the East Contra Costa Fire Protection District, was known to be a liability. We were classified as being the Titanic. It is the organization that was going to be going down. It was not sustainable. There was too many things that plagued us from the way that the organization was set up. As I stated, our tax revenues, there were many issues that brought us to where we were, and they were not survivable. The fire board and myself, starting in 2017, we did not subscribe to that. We felt that by breaking down the walls, working with our partner agencies, and correcting those 2 pages of things that we showed you, there was a pathway to be a little more efficient and also a way to become a more attractive organization, and we have done that. And for that reason, we decided to, and this, with the support of the labor groups and also the partner agency, Contra Costa County Fire, we started to have a discussion about what would annexation look like. Can we have that conversation? Is there feasibility? And what I will tell you is we did a paper napkin test starting in about August of 2020. And what we found in the phase 1 feasibility is that there was efficiencies. The station costs that we have, because we only had 3 stations at the time, is that the cost of us, a fully burdened cost per station, is substantially more than that of Contra Costa County Fire. And the easiest way to describe that is no differently than having a small mom and pop store, hardware store, a bookstore, whatever it may be, versus the Lowe's and the Home Depots. They're just able to do things at a little bit more efficient rate. We have our own uniqueness. There's certain things that we can do as an independent fire district. There is value and pros and cons, but we are not as financially efficient. Even though their members do get compensated more, the way in which that we do business, it did cost us more to be able to do it. So with that said, because of those 2 pages of things that we corrected, your fire district is no longer a liability, and it was something that we could look at. And we did. So starting in August of 20, we went through the phase 1 feasibility, a very high level, conceptual, is it even worth doing a deep dive, which was phase 2. The fire boards invested money. We partnered with Contra Costa County Fire in these studies. We got a 3rd-party consultant. And starting in December of 2020, we started the deep dive, and that's what I actually reported out on in June. The last time we did this update was in June, and they came out and stated that the board received and adopted the phase 2 feasibility study, and it showed that there was efficiencies and there was revenues to be had if we were to consolidate. We left that meeting, and as we went through the phase 2, we worked towards what was the resolution process to get substantially similar resolutions, and that went all the way through the month of September. Next slide, please. So in September, what happened was from December until September, the fire boards looked at the studies. That is the Contra Costa County Fire Board and the East Contra Costa Fire Protections Board, and they had to consider doing resolutions of intent for annexation. On September 14th, the Contra Costa County Fire Protections Board, they took action to annex in, to bring in the East Contra Costa Fire Protection District into their jurisdiction and to absorb them and bring the organizations together. The East Contra Costa Fire Protection District, we took similar action on September 16th, and that should say Cccfd board meeting on the 16th. And their resolution was not only to approach LAFCO to annex into Contra Costa County Fire, but also to dissolve the East Contra Costa Fire Protection District. The applications were submitted last Monday to LAFCO. The proceedings have begun. We believe that there'll be a commission hearing in sometime around July. When that's approved in January, When that's approved in January, it'll go to the State Board Equalization. And that will last for about 1 to 2 months. We anticipate, and it's subject to change, these processes can take a little bit longer, but we anticipate within the months of March and or April, the East Contra Costa Fire Protection District will be annexed into Contra Costa County Fire Protection District. Once that's done, the fire board, the East Contra Costa Fire Protection District Board, will not be responsible for the employees, responsible for the assets, but they will have to do some formal processes to wind down and to transfer real property. And we anticipate that will happen all the way from May until no later than October of next year. But the board also will be dissolved, the district will be dissolved, and everybody will be a member of the Contra Costa County Fire Protection District. Now, let me explain the efficiencies. The efficiencies and the reason why the boards approved substantially similar resolutions is because it demonstrated with not only leaning into annexation, but also into the countywide halves and sales tax of Measure X. With those two things together is that we are going to be able to not only take care of Station 4 through our own means, but Station 5 and Station 6 with not only the efficiencies of annexation, but also Measure X funds. It's going to erase our existing 3-station existing service level deficits. And that's what we've been trying to do. We've been trying to get that done. And it was through not only work that we have done collectively for the past 5 years, and if April, ironically enough, if April of 2022 is when this transition occurs, it will be actually 5 years to the month of which I was given the privilege and the opportunity to serve in this capacity, and with our fire board to be able to move these things through. So in 5 years' time, we achieved some, we got through some pretty treacherous grounds, but we made very good headway. Next slide, please. So one thing I want to give a heads up on is I still strongly recommend that people watch our board meetings. They stay engaged, as you can see on here. The social media is where the information is going to be coming out. And to conclude and going into questions here in a moment, is that right now, October the 25th, I'm doing the State of the District. I plan to come back out to all of you in January once LAFCO takes action and that they direct and go to the State Board of Equalization to provide an update on not only where we've come and what we've done. Secondarily is I want to be able to, when after the State Board of Equalization comes, then I will come out and do another meeting in the month of March, probably a couple weeks before the final gavel is hit, to bring both the organizations together to essentially say it's been a privilege and it's been an honor, and that we did it. And we finally got to the point to be able to get to 6 stations to the level we need. Now, the 6 stations, what I'll say is this, is that the 6 stations we anticipate, I want to be very clear about this. So in March of 2022, April of 2022, we're looking to opening. We're already training people to staff Station 55 in Bethel Island. So at Station 55, Bethel Island, on the outskirts of Oakley, that station will be staffed in April or May of 2022. We will dual staff the Brentwood Fire Station with another engine company, hopefully by July of 2022, while the construction of the station at Empire, Grant, Amber Lane, as that's being constructed, we'll dual staff the existing station in Brentwood, and once it's constructed, we'll move them into that station. And then we anticipate within 4 to 5, I'm gonna say between 4 and 6 years. Between 4 and 6 years, we will not only rebuild the station downtown Brentwood, but we'll also be able to staff that. So it's gonna take us about 5 years to be able to get the 6 stations. But one thing is, remember, we will be annexed into the Contra Costa County Fire Protection District. We will be part of that agency, which means that the weight and the resources by air, ground, and by water, we will be one agency. So we have been historically challenged with getting agreements in place. They're called automatic aid or mutual aid agreements. Those will no longer exist. We are going to be one agency. And so access to additional resources, they have in depth of resources throughout the county. We're all one organization. And then so we have to be able to get there. So I will come back again in January and March and to give updates. Our board meetings still on the 2nd Wednesday. Our finance meetings are on the 3rd Monday. Our meetings are live streamed. And the objective here is, again, I want you as the residents, as the business owners, to have not only relevant, timely, but accurate information, understand what we're going, what we're doing, because this is very complex and it is it's been taking us a long time to get here. So I appreciate all your patience as we work through it. All right, last slide, please. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work. I want to keep this slide here for a moment, take a picture of it or look at it. That's my cell phone. That's my email address. If you're a resident or a business owner within our jurisdiction, understand I am your fire chief as long as the East Contra Costa Fire Protection District is around. I will have a position within the new organization. It's still being worked on, but the point being is I'll always be an ambassador for our area. I'll always be an asset to be able to feed information and provide clarity on anything that's going on. But I'm very much pleased to announce to you that your fire board and the staff of your district over the past 5 years, we have finally found a recipe and we found a way with support of the Contra Costa County Board of Supervisors and our partner agencies to be able to address and to get increased service levels throughout our jurisdiction. All right, so we can probably drop that slide, or we can leave it up, either way. And let's work through questions if there are any. All right, so I actually can see. Perfect. Yes, the answer is yes. So we're well overdue for a truck company. So those of you that aren't aware, the East Contra Costa Fire Protection District, we do not have a truck. We've had to rely upon the Contra Costa County Fire Protection District to send it through what is really mutual aid. Happy to report, Angel, that the station that is going to be 52, the July station. Now it's going to be originally staffed by an engine company, but we're in discussions today. We're actually purchasing a truck in the very near future, probably in the next couple weeks to a month. We'll be purchasing a truck, but it does take about 1.5 to 2 years to build out. But once that truck is done, it'll go to 52, which is the downtown Brentwood station now, and they'll be relocated to station 51, which will be a permanent house. And so the fifth engine company we put in place, which is going to be the July 22, that is intended to be a truck company. So that's well overdue, and I'm happy to report that that is in the plan. Next question, please. What's the structure response for East Contra Costa Fire Protection look like, and does Cocoa Fire respond as well? So right now, and I don't want to get into too many details, it can be complex, but our structure responses, we have residential or commercial structure responses. We at East Contra Costa Fire, we send 3 engines to those responses, and in a lot of ways, we have to be transitional. What it means defensive, so exterior to interior, because we only have 3 resources. If there's a life safety and or if we can't keep it within the original contained boxes, we call for what's mutual aid from partner agencies such as Contra Costa County Fire, and we lean upon CAL FIRE too, but they'll send additional resources. But again, it's only if there's a life safety or we can't keep it inside the box. The Contra Costa County Fire Protection District, they send a little less than 5 engines and or a truck with a battalion chief to all residential structures. So the answer to the question is today, no, we are not the same. With that being said, is once LAFCO approves and annexation is done, you will have a uniform response matrix, which means that what ConFire receives today, we will also be receiving in this jurisdiction. It's going to be exactly the same. So you can get anywhere from 5 to 7 pieces of equipment on residential and commercial on an initial alarm. And so today they are different, but as we move forward, that is one of our probably highest level priorities for the safety of not only the citizens, but also our members, is to try to get the response matrices to be the same as soon as we can. And we anticipate that will begin in April 2022, if not sooner. Great questions. Next question, please. Angel, you got them all coming in. How often all 3 stations committed to separate incidents at once? That's a great question. Angel, if you were to go to our website and you go to the top and it goes about the fire district, you can scroll down, and one of the tabs you can click on is operational reports. We have an operational report that comes out every single month. It'll tell you how many times each station runs a call and how many times they turn a wheel. So you'll have not only how many responses they had within their first area, but how many times they turned a wheel to respond to a call. You'll have your average response times by station and by area, how many times we requested auto aid or mutual aid and vice versa. And then you'll see quarterly we have unavailable for calls report. So the unavailable calls report is important because that lets you know when all 3 of our resources were assigned to other incidents and we had to call an outside agency in, or how many hours per month that we are committed, all our resources are committed to calls. I will tell you that per month, we can average anywhere from 12 to 20 hours, depending upon the month, the time of the year. It does fluctuate. You can look at the reports, but there have been multiple calls that the house agency had to respond to because we're not available. But once you've looked at that report, if you have additional questions, you can call me at the number I provided, or it's available on the website. Great questions. Next question, please. The taxes we pay now through the East Contra Costa Fire Protection District should be able to find more, let alone Measure X money. We need our fireboat back. Bethel Island needs this for our community. All right, there's a couple things going on there. So the complexity with tax funds, and this is a course amongst itself. And so, Christy, I appreciate the comments. However, a little bit of clarity is, I believe that if you're in Bethel Island, so the way it works, and we don't have a lot of time, but I would love to talk to you offline about this, but it's complex, is that we all live in a community. Every community has an assessment rate, and everybody is taxed differently. It's called a TRA, or a tax rate area. We all belong to one. If you own a home, you pay in a tax rate area. In Proposition 13 in 1978, what they did is they had what is called the ad valorem. It was the 1%, and they took that 1% and they divided it into a pie, and they gave and they pay for different services. So the 100% of the pie, it got divided up differently depending upon where you live. Rarely is any one tax rate area the same. The Bethel Island tax rate areas are different than Brentwood. Brentwood's different than Oakley. And in Brentwood and Oakley, there's different subsets of different assessments or things within their areas. Bottom line is they're different. Now, what I'll tell you is that in Bethel Island, the tax rate, ad valorem and the rate is close to 18.5%. It's what we should have throughout the whole jurisdiction, but we don't. And the population on Bethel Island is about 1,500 people, the 143,000 of whom we serve. To boil it down on simplicity is that within Oakley and within Brentwood and within Discovery Bay is 13.5% on average. Oakley is at about 4.9% on average. Brentwood, I believe, is approximately 5.6 cents on the 1% on average. So I didn't create it. Don't shoot the messenger. But the reality is that we receive about 7 cents on average. When you take the whole jurisdiction, we make about 7 cents on the dollar, where we should be closer to the 21%. So we as a district do not have anywhere near the funding we have. If all the areas were at 18.5%, they are not. But we should have placed assessments on all future property past 1978 to take care of that gap, to bring everyone up to that 21%, or above 14 to 21%. And so hopefully that provides clarity that, you know, the taxes that you pay now, it does well in Bethel Island, but the population base is so low, and it isn't like that throughout our whole jurisdiction. Secondarily is the Measure X funds is something that if you go back and look at the feasibility study, the Measure X funds were intended for fire, for mental health, for hospitals. We were part. It wasn't general. I'm sorry, it wasn't specific. It was a general tax. But the types of things it was going to go to was to address shuttered fire stations within the area and many other things that it showed needs for when they did a needs assessment. And there's been a Measure X committee that has been working for months to figure out how those allocations are going to be done. And the County Board of Supervisors are working to identify how they're going to use those monies. And so Measure X very much was, the firefighters were a part of it. We endorsed it. Our fire district endorsed it. The Bethel Island, BIMID, I believe, and I could have that wrong, but I think BIMID did a resolution of intent of supporting the district working towards those funds. The Discovery Bay CSD, the City of Brentwood, the City of Oakley, we have all been looking at any alternative means in lieu of additional tax to be able to, for Measure X funds. I agree with you, you need your fireboat back. We have never had the ability, we can't even take care of our land 90% of the time. Well, we respond to 90% of the time, we haven't had the resources to do it. And that is why we didn't have a boat program. That's why we gave the boat, loaned the boat to Contra Costa County Fire so they could staff it. And understand, we have access to the boat. If we call for it, they'll come. It's part of the agreement we have with them. But when annexation occurs, understand that boats continue to be staffed. They have a lot more water resources and programs, and they'll be covering the whole jurisdiction, not just their jurisdiction. They won't only be coming here on automatic aid or mutual aid requests. It's going to be a service now provided through annexation. And so we are working on that, and hopefully that begins to address your questions, Christy, but if not, please ask another one or let's find a time to talk. Next question, please. Really, the best thing that all community members can do is to provide accurate and updated information and let people know within your communities what the fire district is doing to increase service levels. We get criticized all the time for lack of urgency, a lack of information, but we are plagued with decades of poor planning decisions or just no decisions at all. And those 2 slides I showed you with all the bullet points have been us cleaning house. For the past 5 years, we've been cleaning house, correcting mechanisms, becoming a more attractive organization, and now we have annexation right in the front windshield of what we're doing. And so we do appreciate the patience. I think the biggest other thing you can do is create a safe community, please. Do everything you can to create a safe home. Take care of your neighbors. Do things that not lean upon and maximize upon the system. Vegetation hazard abatement, creating a safer home. When and if you need to call 911, appreciate, please, the firefighters that respond, the tip of our spear, the guys and the gals on the engine company that be able to respond every day, our prevention personnel. They have half the resources they need. They're running really hard. They can run up to 20 calls plus in a 24-hour period, and they can do that for multiple days. And so it is not their fault, the situation that we're in, but they have been answering the call endlessly all the way throughout. So it's not pointed to staff, it's not pointed to the board, but it's pointed to the engine companies, our inspectors, the people in the field. Just any grace towards them and understand that they didn't create this. They have half the resources they need and supporting them. So be engaged, be educated by your fire district, and please continue to support your firefighters. That's what we need from you. Next question, please. Glad to hear that, Julie. That's affirming. Thank you. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. Okay. Will we have any hazmat capable engines or specialized units? And the answer is yes. So the way that County Public Health historically provided hazmat material responses, the Contra Costa County Fire Protection District, one thing that's nice about what they provide is, again, the baseline levels are going to increase. So they have medical helicopters. They also have the ability to do some vegetation firefighting. They also have boats, as I stated. They have a marine program. They have hazardous material programs. They have truck companies. And so the specialized piece of equipment that they have, it's something that we currently do not. And so what's going to be nice about this is there's going to be ramp up time, and we're going to continue to evolve, but those resources are going to be available as they are today. But we'll be making a mutual aid request today, and they'd be part of our normal response matrix as we move forward. To that point, is that we had a vehicle accident not too long ago that required a hazardous material response, and through our mutual aid request, Contra Costa County Fire responded, but soon, in April of 2022, Contra Costa County Fire Protection District will become your fire district. The East Contra Costa Fire District will then be dissolved, and you'll have those specialized piece of equipment. But we're already starting to work with train our personnel that way now to be prepared for 2022. Great question. Next question, please. Yes, Julie, so am I. Looking forward to Bethel Island, Station 55. Well overdue. April, May of 2022 will be a glorious time to be able to staff that station sustainably. Once it's open, we're gonna have a sustainable path to keep it open. No more stations opening and closing in East Contra Costa. I think that those will be a thing of the past. And so we'll celebrate that with you. Come out when we do the station opening. If we have a ceremony for it, we welcome you to it. Will the new stations be equipped with water tenders? So tenders are new Type 3 engines. So Aiden, the way that we usually work, the East Contra Costa Fire District, we have what's called a Type 1. It's a structural fire engine. It's what you usually see driving up and down the street. And then we have what's a wildland unit. It's an off-road unit. It's called a Type 3 and a water tender. About 60% of our agency does not have fire hydrants. So we have to roll what's called tandem. So we'll take either the structural fire engine if it's in the city and or there's a structure fire. If it doesn't have hydrants, we take the water tender. And if it's a vegetation fire with no hydrants, we take the water tender behind it. And so currently our model is a type 1, which is the structural fire engine, a type 3, the wildland engine, and a water tender at all stations. But understand this, we're going to be reorganized into the Contra Costa County Fire Protection District. We'll strategically look to see if that model needs to continue. But currently, as of right now, the plan is, again, to either have a truck and or an engine, and a truck has a ladder on top. That's what we currently don't have. That's what Angel brought up earlier. It'll have a truck and or an engine, a wildland unit, and a water tender. That's what we're working on right now. But that will be probably defined in the next couple of updates as we move forward. That's the goal. Next question. Response times are about, as long as we're at 3 stations, our response times are substantially similar and or the same. You can go back, as I think I told Angel originally, you can go to operational reports. You can see the ebbs and the flows. I mean, we do have different times of the year, call volume does increase, the pandemic, medical aids, but on average, we're about double the national average what we should be. Our response times are unreasonable. I take complete ownership and responsibility for what they are. Adding 3 stations should work to drive those numbers in half. And that's just our current reality, so time and distance. But I would say that over the past year, our response times, within plus or minus 20 seconds have stayed about the same. At the 3-station model, they'll probably continue, but our call volume has fluctuated up and down, and the calls that are unavailable for have also increased. So, but the operational reports would give you the specifics, and we could always talk offline if that doesn't address them. Next question, please. With the consolidation, how soon will stations see paramedics on the engines? Great question, Greg. Good to see you. And that's another service level I didn't even bring up. And so I appreciate Greg highlighting that. So folks that don't know, is the East Contra Costa Fire Protection District, or BLS, or basic life support, EMTs, engine-based EMTs. We do not have paramedics, which is considered advanced life support. Throughout this annexation, the plan is to have engine-based paramedicine on all of our engines over time. But as Greg and many others are aware, that staffing plan to be able to hire, to train, to get on, it's going to be phased in over time. I anticipate that we will be 100% within 5 years. Hopefully the goal is sooner. But we are going to be working, and as we open the stations, to get all of our engines to have paramedics on it also. That's what's been planned, but it's about training and getting people onto it. So not only should we get to 3 stations, there'll be 3 stations now with the truck company and all the hazardous materials and all the other specialized pieces of equipment, but also have paramedics on the engines. And we're going to try to do that from day 1, but incrementally across the board to be 100% staffed. I don't know, 4 or 5 years, but hopefully sooner. That's training, getting people online. Great question, Greg. Next question, please. These are good ones tonight. When does the training facility get built in East County? So those of you, many of you may not know that East Contra Costa Fire Protection District has never had dedicated training grounds. It's really problematic. We've had to train within our firehouses or in communities that are partially built or just on a dirt lot. And so that was one of the initiatives with the new board that we really worked into our strategic plan. We have a 2019 to 23 strategic plan. And that strategic plan was to find a way to build dedicated training grounds. We are in discussions right now with the Iron House Sanitary District. They have been great strategic partners. They have, I think, about 100 acres of dedicated land that is very restricted what can be built. One of the challenges about training grounds, you don't want to be constricted or development to come around it. And we're in discussions with them, feasibility discussions with them right now. We started it back in 2019. In 2020, we stopped those conversations because they themselves had to go through a strategic planning process. They just completed that in this month. I went and presented to their board, and we're re-engaging in those conversations to where now Contra Costa County Fire is a seat at the table with us. I'll continue to speak on behalf of both districts, Contra Costa and East Contra Costa, working with them to figure out the feasibility of building out the training grounds over a period of time. It's about a $15 million initiative that will be done over, probably a 12-year period. But we do have funds through the impact fees that we're going to be collecting. We We have $500,000 already in savings, but it's really important right now about us securing the land. And so we will be going at a future meeting, maybe in November, December, or January, back to Iron House to continue those studies and continuing those conversations. But Dave, I think realistically is that breaking ground, if we can get a land agreement and getting things done, is probably a year and a half out and 2 years. So it's probably going to take us about 5 years to be able to have something where we can train on, but we have alternatives in place between now and then. So that's encouraging. That's a huge blind spot for us, but we have the funding in place that's trickling in, and now it's about the land agreement that I hope to get done within the next year, and then hopefully 2 years from now we have training grounds. Great question. Next question, please. Yeah, so I need to be careful and not overstep my authority. But we usually do ribbon cutting ceremonies where all of the elected officials, staff go, and we invite the public. We have to take all things, COVID into effect and take it into it. But yes, when we go to open that station, I believe it's going to be a community-facing event. Again, that decision at that time will be made by the Contra Costa County Fire Protection District. But that's something we will obviously be communicating out. So I'll be reporting out in January, and then again in March or April before that transition occurs, and that will hopefully be one of the updates I bring to you, so stay tuned. Great question. Will I be staying on as our leader? The quick answer is no. However, Contra Costa County Fire Protection District is a strong fire chief, Chief Louis Burchard of the Contra Costa County Fire Protection District. He will be the fire chief. He is the fire chief. He will be the fire chief. We're being absorbed into the district. Myself and our staff will be absorbed into and will be reassigned to some degree. Those discussions are still happening, but I do anticipate by the time we get to the January update, I'll know where it is that I land, where my duties will be assigned. But no, Vicki, I will not be the fire chief. With that said, as I said earlier, I'll always continue to be an ambassador. I'll always do what's in best interest of its members, our firefighters, and everyone within the jurisdiction. I'll get more into depth again as we hit January and or March about the privilege that I've had and what we have achieved and what it's meant to me. But again, I've never been married to how we fix this. I've never been married to how we fix our problems, and this has never been about where I even land or what it means for me. It's been about what it is that we can do, and we've done good. I mean, we have done great to get us to where we need to go, and I'm still going to be forward thinking, and I have faith that I'll land on my feet in a good way, but it's too early to be specific because we're just not there yet. And so we lean into this every day, regardless of those unknown facts, and in time they'll reveal themselves, but that isn't the primary focus. The primary focus is increasing service levels tomorrow, but I will have an opportunity to be able to continue to serve East Contra Costa and our members, and I'll be more forthcoming when I find out at future meetings what exactly that means and what it looks like. We just don't have it yet. So I appreciate the question, Vicki. Next question, please. Troy, how you doing, Troy? Very proud of you, Chief. Always doing more with less. Keep with the good work. Please support our first responders. Amen. Yeah, let's continue to support our members as we work through this. Thank you, Troy. I appreciate that. Come to 55. Yeah, it's not that simple. I'll be overseeing something within the new organization. The battalion chiefs are going to be overseeing our area, but man, I kind of miss those days, to say a little bit. But you're going to be seeing me around. Don't worry about that. You'll be seeing me around. Next question, please. I agree. Great job to everyone who has gotten us this far. Look, and to be specific, your elected fire board, those that are on it now, those that were on it at any capacity or any time, all of the firefighters and the labor groups being able to lean into these problems every single day. There are other special districts, such as I said, like Iron House, and the city of Brentwood, the city of Oakley, the Contra Costa County Board of Supervisors. The list is long and far. There are many people that get to celebrate where we have come as a district to be able to correct the decades, like I said, of the wrongs and the things that we have. And so, look, in you, Julie, and all of those that are in the communities, look, we've had a lot of many courageous conversations. There's been a lot of criticisms towards me. There's been a lot of criticisms towards our board. And that's why I thank you for not only the grace, I thank you for the patience, I thank you for the understanding. I mean, our job is not done yet. We still have more to do. We still need to open the stations and get these things coming. But, communicating effectively, being part of the solution, giving credit where credit is due, and working together. I said a long time ago, it's going to take all of us. And so we've all are going to be able to achieve and be able to celebrate what the next chapter is going to be. And so I share that with you too, Julie, and everyone that has been actively engaged. I appreciate that. Next question, please. Amen. He will. I am confident in that. Next question, please. Do you think this change to Cccfd affect the relationship between the fire department and the community? Look, it's one of the things I've learned throughout this is that it's going to be a different organization. I know that they are very customer service driven and very customer service oriented. 90% of what we do is responding to calls, right? Calling 911. You want to make sure a fire engine promptly, quickly, fastly, professionally, and the people that hop off it are not only well-trained athletes, but they're very educated and skilled to do very, very challenging and difficult tasks, from not only medical to rescue to firefighting and otherwise. So the point is highly trained, quick people. That is what our biggest challenge has always been, is making sure that when someone calls 911, an engine is out there quick. And one of the things we learned is people are not so specific about what the name is on the door than it is getting an engine there fast. And so I think that, would processes be different? Sure. Are they a public safety agency that is customer service oriented? Sure. Are these events going to happen? They're not. Is there going to be an opportunity to be able to have access to the administration? We're going to figure that out, and I'll make sure as we hit January and March that how the new way of us communicating we look. So look, it's change, good and bad change. If it's good or bad, it's still going to be a change, and it's going to be a little difficult. They are not East Contra Costa Fire. We are not Con Fire, but we will become Con Fire. We're going to embrace that. And so my job, look, right now I'm spending a lot of my days and my time making sure I did all of this internally. So I've done this with the board members. I've done this with our firefighters, our administrative staff, our prevention staff. I spent the last 2 weeks doing all hands meetings that they would be prepared to, when they saw this on Facebook Live, that they would also have had the opportunity to do this one-on-one with me. And so, we're communicating there too and explaining, but we want to make sure that we're not a liability, we're an asset in the transition. We want to make sure that we hit the ground running. I want to make sure that everybody is informed. I want to make people educated. And so not only am I doing that for every member within my organization, but I also want to make sure we do the same thing for you as our citizens and businesses. So, Aiden, to be clear, is that what that looks like, I don't know today, but I think that's okay. I think what's more importantly is as we approach the transition date, as where's that conduit to get information? How do I stay informed? Where is it at, and how do I do it? And that's for me. That's on me and my responsibility to make sure that I educate you and I prepare you as we get to that transition day. So on merger day +1, if you stay actively engaged, and that's your part, I will appropriately equip you and inform you to stay engaged. And in that way, I hope that our relationship continues to be effective and positive as we transition through the next chapter. Great question. Next question, please. Well, there it is. We've come to the end, and we're exactly at 59 minutes and 11 seconds in this. We want to keep it to 1 hour, and we're there. And so, listen, folks, I sincerely thank everybody that is watching. I ask you to continue to share this. Again, I'm going to be coming back in January once LAFCO takes their direction, and as the State Board Equalization goes to wind down the fire district. So again, my name is Brian Helmick. I'm your fire chief. That is a cell phone number, and that's my email address. This conversation is to continue and have dialogue and active conversation with you as we move forward. And so I very much thank you for staying actively engaged. Share that. We'll advertise it as we move to the upcoming events. Watch the board meetings and call me if there's anything I can do to address questions. So until next time, God bless, be safe, and I appreciate you for being here today. See you soon.